Hi, my name's David Greeves. I'm the founder of Great Eastern Effects, and I'm here to tell you about our pedal, the Small Speaker Overdrive. There are loads of examples of great albums where the guitars sound absolutely huge, but actually what they were using was not a big Marshall stack, but a little amp like a Fender Champ or Vibra Champ, close mic'd in the studio. When I was designing this pedal, I was really thinking about people like Duane Allman, Eric Clapton on 461 Ocean Boulevard, Billy Gibbons, Joe Walsh, Mike Campbell, a lot of my favourite guitarists who have at one time or another used these little amps, which were really student model amps designed for home use, but they've used them in the studio to get these really incredible sounds. And there's a couple reasons, I think, why these amps are so great as recording amps. And one is that small speaker itself, because of its size, it physically can't reproduce as much bass, and it does a lot of the work of the engineer for them. It naturally rolls off the low end and helps the guitar to sit really nicely in the mix and stay out of the way of the bass and drums, keys, whatever else might be going on. And those small speakers, when you crank them, they break up a lot sooner, and in a really interesting way, you get a great honky sort of high-mid peak that again really helps the guitar cut through. The second thing that makes those amps really special is that the amp itself is just about as simple as you can get. It's a Class A single-ended valve amp with often without even a tone stack in there. So it's really about as simple and direct as you can be. And those Class A amps, they break up early and in a very natural way. So when you've got a larger amp, a push-pull amp with 2 or 4 tubes in the output section, often with negative feedback applied to give the amp more volume, more headroom. And that means that though the amp stays cleaner for longer, when it does break up, it's quite abrupt. Whereas with a Class A single-ended amp, the transition is very smooth, and really, once the amp's turned up, it's never quite clean, and you can exploit that smooth transition from clean to dirty literally by picking harder, and that makes them so expressive and so great in the studio. But it's really important to remember that these amps actually in the room can often sound quite boxy, and not necessarily all that appealing. A lot of the magic happens when you put a mic really close to the amp, and that closeness adds what's called proximity effect, which reinforces the low end, and you get something totally different out of those amps. So really this pedal was not about trying to recreate the amp itself or the sound of the amp in the room. It was really listening to those sounds on record that I love so much and trying to find a way to bottle some of that magic and put it in a pedal you could put in front of whatever amp you're using to get the same feel. So there's 2 main things to say about the pedal. The first is that it is super, super dynamic. It's almost like a fuzz pedal in the way it cleans up with a volume knob. So you can set the gain as high as you like, and then just use the volume knob on your guitar to roll back and explore the full range of sounds from clean to dirty. At the same time, like a fuzz pedal, it really does like to be first in the signal chain. It's not terrible if you put things in front of it. It just will sound a bit brighter, and it won't have that amazing dynamic response that I think makes it really special. The second thing it has is that EQ curve, which I modelled really closely on the response of an 8-inch speaker. So it will naturally roll off low end and give you this lovely presence peak. And though a lot of people I know like to use this pedal cranked up to kind of get the sound of a little Class A amp that's really cooking, I actually like to use it with the gain pulled back often, and that sort of edge of breakup sound where I can dig in harder to get a bit of sizzle, a bit of overdrive, or I can ease back and play quietly for a cleaner sound. But again, that EQ curve that the pedal applies, it really helps to lift clean sounds out of the mix and gives kind of lovely presence and definition to the guitar. So as well as the gain and level controls, you've got high and low controls as well. The highs is a semi-active boost and cut, so you can turn it up if you want to add more presence and chime, or you can actually roll it all the way off for a sort of pseudo coq-wah sound. There's some really great tones with the gain cranked and the highs turned all the way down. The low knob acts more as a bass boost, so if you roll it right back, you're closer to the sound of these little amps as they really are. But often when we're recording and putting the mic close or adding EQ on the board, we're trying to bolster that low end a bit. So as you turn the low up, you can really fill back in the lows or really low mids, but you're never going to get a sound that's too bassy or fuzzy or woolly in the bass, because again, this pedal's really closely modelled on the sound of that small speaker. So I'm going to give you some audio examples now. I would encourage you though to go and look at some of the other great videos that other people have already made about this pedal, people who play a lot better than me and record guitars a lot better. So I'll put some links into the description for those. But meanwhile, here's some examples of how the pedal sounds. Just for convenience today, I'm plugging into a Walrus ACS1 amp simulator pedal, and that's going into a Focusrite audio interface. And in between, I'm just using the Catalinbread Topanga reverb pedal for just a little bit of ambience. So here's what my guitar sounds like with the pedal off. So let's start off with gain turned down pretty low, just enough to give us a bit of breakup. I've got the low control set right down, just like a small amp would sound, and level pushed up a bit. So let's have a listen. So immediately you can hear that presence, that lift. The guitar sounds brighter, more lively. And just as I play harder, there's that little bit of gristle, little bit of breakup that's really nice. So let's turn the gain up a bit and see what we can do. So now it's a bit crunchier. We can add a bit more bass in if we like. I'll give you a bit on the bridge pickup. And if we crank it right up, then you hear that honky resonance start to come out, and you get the feel of a little amp that's really being pushed hard. And even with the gain turned right up like that, I could just roll back my volume control and it cleans right up. So now let's listen to what the low and high EQ controls can do. So on the net pickup, sort of medium gain, nice bit of breakup. So let's listen to the high. If we turn this up, then we get a lovely bit of presence and chime. So nothing too extreme, but enough there to fine tune to suit your amp, your guitar, and the kind of sound you're going for. So let's listen to the low control. If I wind it right back. The guitar sounds nice and lively. It's going to cut through really nicely. But if you want to bolster that low end or lower mid, you can turn up the low control. And if we use both tone controls at their extremes, we can get some really interesting effects. So for the lows all the way off and highs all the way on, you can get some really nasty small amp sounds. And if we go the other way, crank the low, wind the high right back, and maybe with a bit more gain, we get a great, almost coq-wah sound. So as well as being a great overdrive pedal, whether you're using it as your core sound or just to add a bit of extra something for certain sections of a song, this pedal is really useful for making solid state amps, interfaces and amp modelers just sound a bit more lively and amp-like. So my direct sound here into the Walrus ACS1 sounds great. It's very nice and clean, but what's really difficult to get is the sound of a real valve amp that's just on the edge of breakup. So when you dig in, you get a bit more character. So let's see if we can dial that in using the Small Speaker Overdrive. Let's take the gain down a little bit. Please do check out some of the other video demos that are out there showing off some different sides to the pedal. And if you can, please give us a like and subscribe. It really helps us reach more people like you. So thank you. Till next time. Catch you then.